Yesterday we looked at some of the best transfers made in deadline day history, and today we're going to look at some of the worst deals to have occurred on the final day of the summer transfer window. The final day of the window can be a bit of a lottery, with teams panicking to buy players and others desperate to trim their squads before the clock strikes midnight, or whatever time the deadline was that year. So let's take a look at 8 terrible summer transfer deadline day signings from the Premier League. First up, we've got MOUSSA SISSOKO. We're getting this one out the way early because we've talked about it enough in recent times. On transfer deadline day last summer, Tottenham decided to stump up 30 million quid on MOUSSA SISSOKO after watching him shine at Euro 2016, rather than pay any attention to him stinking out the Premier League for the past few years. In a huge shock to absolutely no one, the Euro 2016 SISSOKO did not arrive at White Hart Lane, and the Newcastle fans have been in hysterics ever since. Next up, we've got LESCOTT. To think, LESCOTT was an England regular and a 2-time Premier League winner not long ago. Oh, how quickly the star faded. On transfer deadline day in 2015, Lescott agreed a deal to move from West Brom to Aston Villa as he continued his tour around the Midlands. Having done alright at West Brom, this was the move that really killed Lescott's career, playing in a stinking Aston Villa side that were only heading one way. The defenders' performances were abject at best and Aston Villa were relegated to the Championship. Then on top of that there was the whole luxury car tweet debacle. Oh well, at least he still got those Premier League medals to cling on to. Up next, it's SANTOS. When Cesc Fabregas left Arsenal for Barcelona in 2011, Arsene Wenger found himself with gaps in his team and money to spend, and that problem remained until transfer deadline day. The Frenchman signed Mikel Arteta from Everton, who was a cheap replacement for Fabregas, and then spent around £6 million on Brazilian fullback André Santos from Fenerbahce because... we're not really sure why. To say Santos was awful would be a compliment to the lad, because he didn't look at all comfortable on a football pitch, then got in bother for swapping shirts with ex-gunner Robin van Persie at half-time during a game against Manchester United. Who knows what went through Arsene Wenger's head on transfer deadline day in 2011. Poor guy. Next up, we've got Gaston RAMIREZ. When the Saints returned to the Premier League in 2012, they wanted to add a marquee name to their side, and that came in the form of Gaston RAMIREZ, the highly rated Uruguayan who arrived for £12 million from Bologna. Despite the odd moment of brilliance, Ramirez was the odd one out at Southampton, and after 2 years went on loan to Hull City and was eventually released by the Saints in 2016, who were reported to have ended up losing £21 million on the midfielder. Ramirez would spend the last 6 months of his Saints contract on loan at Middlesbrough, where he helped the Borough return to the Premier League, and signed a permanent deal there that summer, but has since fallen out with another club and was sold to Sampdoria for just under 10 million quid this summer. Up next, it's Papi Djilobodji. It was as if Chelsea were playing transfer bingo on deadline day in 2015, as that can be the only reason they stumbled across Nantes defender Papi Djilobodji. At the time he was 26 and had spent only 2 seasons in the French top flight, but Chelsea decided to pay 4 million quid for the Senegalese centre-half. He would never make a league appearance for the Blues and was loaned off to Werder Bremen in January before being sold the following summer to Sunderland for 8 million quid. Somehow Chelsea managed to double their money on a player who had made just 1 substitute appearance for the club. Was it a good deal for the Black Cats? Ask a Sunderland fan, they'll let you know. Just be prepared for a barrage of swear words coming your way. So maybe this was actually a good signing by Chelsea. Up next, we've got Maicon. The Brazilian arrived in England in 2012 with a wealth of experience under his belt, as well as his fair share of trophies, including 4 Serie A titles and the Champions League. So when he arrived at Man City on deadline day for 3 million quid, it looked like a great deal. A player with great experience who can compete with Pablo Zabaleta for the right back slot. Fast forward 1 year and he's being shipped out by new manager Manuel Pellegrini after an injury-ridden year at Eastlands, in which he made just 9 league appearances, and most of the time couldn't even get a place on the bench when he was fit. This was not the same bloke who scored that banger against North Korea in the World Cup. City were definitely punked. Next up, we've got RADAMEL FALCAO. Deadline day 2014 was a weird one, weighing up to find out that Man United were looking to complete a loan deal for RADAMEL FALCAO, one of the deadliest strikers in Europe before his knee basically exploded. The transfer would drag on all day, and Man United confirmed the deal in the early hours of September 2nd, paying £6 million to borrow the Colombian for a year, with an option to buy. It was an exciting deal, but not really necessary, considering they already had Wayne Rooney and Robin van Persie. Falcao would struggle at Old Trafford, scoring 4 goals in 26 Premier League games, and actually being demoted to the reserve side at one point. Surprisingly, Man United decided against signing the forward permanently, and he instead headed to Chelsea on loan for another poor year. And finally we've got Scott Sinclair. When you consider the riches Man City have at their disposal, it's hard to understand why they would spend £8 million on Scott Sinclair on deadline day in 2012, the same day they also signed Maicon. Sinclair had clearly been brought in to replace a soon-to-be disgraced English winger who we're not going to name, taking the number 11 shirt at the Etihad after impressing for Swansea as they survived in their first season of Premier League football. Looking to fill their English quota, Sinclair was barely used by City and would spend most of his time away on loan at West Brom and then Aston Villa, who he joined permanently in 2015, suffering relegation at the end of the season with his reputation in tatters. Celtic would take a chance on Sinclair last summer, and it turned out to be a masterstroke by Brendan Rodgers, with Sinclair scoring 25 goals in all competitions. So those are 8 terrible summer deadline day signings from the Premier League. Let us know your team's worst deadline day signing in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.